Okay, now, the second only to insects on the body, weather data is the most important information you need to determine time of colonization on carrion. That just makes sense, doesn't it? We're looking at how fast these insects grow at various temperatures. We need to know what those temperatures were. So, once you get to the scene, once you do all this sort of stuff, you need to obtain weather data for a period that probably encompasses the time of colonization and hopefully the time of death. Since the rate of decomposition and fly development depends on these species, the ambient temperature, you need to take a look at what species are on the body and then decide approximately how much historical data you need. So, if you have quick developing species like Lucilia or Cochleomya, and the body is in a relatively fresh state of decay, let's say it still has some good flesh on it, it's not fermenting, it's not in active decay or black fermentation or whatever, okay, good flesh on it, you'll want to get temperature data or weather data from about 2 weeks prior to the discovery to 3 to 7 days after discovery of that body. So from 2 weeks prior to 3 to 7 days after. If the insects are slower growing, the body's in an advanced state of decay, so it's in dry decay or active decay, you're only seeing beetles, or it's really, really cold out, you'll need to get 1 to 2 months or so prior to the discovery of the body to 3 to 7 days afterwards. Basically, you just have to use your best judgment. Have to try to figure out how long this body has been there. Remember, though, you can always go back and get more data. So you can always go back further if your calculations say, okay, I need more data. It's easy to go get more. Now, you will get data from weather stations that are near to where the body was found. Hopefully, you'll find the nearest. In one of the next lectures, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this, so don't worry. Okay? But one great resource for historical data is the website wonderground.com. Don't worry about writing that down right now. Don't freak out. It's I will show you this on the next lecture, exactly where to go. The thing with Wonderground is it'll give you hourly data, but it's not considered official data. This is because Wonderground taps into every resource it can to get good weather data. So it'll tap into backyard weather stations. It'll tap into just random people's stuff that they've set up. This way it gets a great idea of what the microclimates are, what's going on in an area, but none of it is officially sanctioned. It's not officially run by professionals. So there's all manner of things that can go wrong with this, you might imagine. Therefore, I like using Wonderground just to get an idea of what I'm looking at. What exactly is going on at that scene? What's closest? For official data, however, you have to go to NOAA, N-O-A-A. I forget what that stands for. Should probably look that up. Anyhow, you got to go to NOAA because that is the governmental agency that covers all of this stuff. This data from NOAA can be certified. So you can buy certified official data, and that usually comes from an airport or a governmental agency, a government body that is nearby or as near as you can get to that body or to that crime scene. So what you'll do with that information, you'll get maximum and minimum daily temperatures. Daily temps aren't the best. They're not as refined as, say, hourly temperatures, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what went on at the scene. You'll also need to get an idea of any other weather phenomena that went on during the possible postmortem interval. Things like heavy rains, heavy winds. Those of you who are back east now understand what I mean with heavy winds. That sort of thing. Anything that can affect colonization. Think about what just happened with that hurricane. If there was a body outside, would it be immediately infested by maggots? Probably not. The flies just couldn't get there in those hurricane strength winds under those torrential rains. Okay, so you need to note that down. Now, there is very little information out there about how rain and wind actually affect time of colonization interval. So even if there is heavy rain, you wouldn't be able to say, okay, there was heavy rain, therefore the bugs didn't show up until this day. There's no formula for that. So you just want to note it in your report and move on. Do your best to just sort of make it clear. So you'll finally need to look at the temperature at the scene, right where the body was found. You should collect daily temperatures for at least 3, but it's better if it's up to 7 days after the body was removed, and compare them to weather from the weather station. So this is why when you pull weather from a weather data station, you're getting, week 2 weeks before up to 7 days after, because you're leaving a temperature probe at this weather station, or where the body was found, and you're going to compare what you pulled from your official data from the weather station to what was actually happening at the scene. If they're significantly different, there's a conversion that you do in order to make it so that they're the same. I'll show you how to do that conversion later on this week, so don't worry about that. Okay, so you just need that data from before and after the body, and you'll take a temperature probe out there and figure out how long, or figure out what the temperatures are where the body actually is at. Now, insect collection at the scene. Your scene technique is important to make sure you get as many relevant specimens as possible. You want to start with the body if it's still there. The reason for this is that this is where the insects are primarily going to be. Of course, they're going to be feeding on that body. Also, investigators will want to move the body as soon as possible, so you want to get your evidence and move on so they can move on with their investigation. When you get to the body, you're going to start with collecting the adults first. They're the ones that can get away the fastest. So use your butterfly net if you're going to try to collect the adults, or you can use sticky traps. These are just glue traps that you place near or on or around the body, and you wait for flies to come back and they'll land on them and you can identify them. The adults will give you a great idea as to what maggots are on the body. So it'll help you with your identifications, and we are developing ways, I've talked about this in a previous lecture, we're developing ways to associate carrion age with ovarian status of adults. So if we use these sticky traps, we can dissect the flies, see what their ovaries look like, and decide how long that body has been there using some statistical methods. This is not something I'm going to teach you in this class because it is still very, very new and has yet to been verified enough times for me to really teach it. All right. Then you're going to collect the larvae. You want to note areas of maggot masses. Naturally, you're going to assume they're going to start at natural bodily openings and wounds. So head, holes, mouth, nose, eyes, ears, anus, vagina, anywhere like that. If you see maggot masses in other areas and the body is pretty fresh, so legs, arms, the torso, the thorax, anything of that nature on animals, you know that there was probably a wound there. You want to mark that down. And this is also a fun party trick. So there was a case that we worked. They brought in the maggots. They were all labeled. It was the detectives who had collected these for us, brought in these maggots for us, said, okay, here you go. Some were labeled from the head, some were labeled from the anus, some were labeled from the palms of the hands. Not normally, natural bodily openings, it's palm of the hands. The scene said that the body was in a fresh state of decay. So we're looking at this under the microscope. Go, okay, head, feet. So there were wounds on the hands. Were those defensive wounds? And the detectives were like, how did you know that? How do you know these sort of things? It was kind of like being magic. That was awesome. Anyhow, so wounds, natural bodily openings. And you want to collect a representative sample from each maggot mass. You're looking primarily for the largest maggots. The largest maggots tend to be the oldest. So you want to get a good sample of the largest maggots, but then also a sample of however many other life stages are there. If there's younger maggots there, get a few of those. We're looking for a full range. Overall, you want to get about 50 to 60 preserved maggots, and then you want to keep some live. You're going to keep about 30 to 40 maggots live that you can then rear to adulthood. This will help you identify those maggots positively. So that'll be nice. Now, when you collect these maggots, you want to be very careful with these specimens. Forceps can leave foreign marks on a body or on an animal. And when you do the autopsy, then the medical examiner is going to wonder what these weird scratches are. So you have to be very careful when collecting these directly from the body. That's what the paintbrushes are for. Now, once you are done with the body, you're going to start looking around and under the body for additional specimens. Since maggots and beetles wander around, and beetles will just run really, really fast, you may miss older maggots and the beetles. Move in concentric circles around the body, checking underneath litter, underneath the body itself, other obstructions for evidence. You want to pay special attention to wet areas. There may be fluids where that the maggots can use to develop. That case along the side of the road, when I got there, the body was already gone. but there was these big pools of bodily fluids left behind. And after digging down about 6 inches in the soil, I found a huge maggot mass. So that's how I was able to get the maggots from the body and figure out my time of colonization estimation. Maggots can wander between 15 and 100 feet away from the body, depending on the terrain. So you want to search accordingly. So in really rough terrain, lots of hills and valleys and rocks and just soil, lots of vegetation, they're not going to go very far. They're going to go at maximum 15 feet. So you do these concentric circles, looking in 15 feet and taking some samples. On linoleum or on cement, smooth surfaces, they can go upwards of 100 feet. They'll go into cracks and crevices. They'll go underneath furniture, under carpet, up under wallpaper, up onto windowsills. Look at all of those places for the maggots.